Prime Minister Narendra Modi made history with his visit to Ukraine, becoming the first Indian Prime Minister to visit the country since the establishment of diplomatic ties in 1992. His visit comes at a crucial time as Ukraine continues to face a devastating conflict with Russia. The trip highlighted India's role as a potential mediator and peacemaker in the ongoing conflict. During his visit, Prime Minister Modi met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, where the two leaders shared a warm hug and a handshake, symbolizing hope for peace and cooperation. The meeting between Prime Minister Modi and President Zelensky took place at the Martyrologist Exposition in Kyiv. This was a significant moment, not just because it marked the first visit by an Indian Prime Minister to Ukraine, but also because it showcased India's willingness to engage directly with the Ukrainian leadership. The two leaders were scheduled to hold both one-on-one and delegation-level talks, with a strong focus on finding a negotiated settlement to the Russia-Ukraine conflict. The warm embrace and handshake between Modi and Zelensky were more than just diplomatic gestures. They represented a shared desire for peace and a resolution to the conflict. Prime Minister Modi arrived in Kyiv from Poland on board a special train known as Rail Force One. The train journey took around 10 hours and marked the second and final leg of his two-nation trip. The visit to Ukraine followed nearly 6 weeks after Modi's high-profile trip to Russia, where he held extensive talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin. The discussions in Russia primarily focused on ending the conflict, and Modi's subsequent visit to Ukraine underscored India's balanced approach to the crisis, seeking peace through dialogue and diplomacy. During his visit to Ukraine, Prime Minister Modi reiterated India's stance on the conflict, emphasizing that a solution could not be achieved without engaging both sides. He conveyed to President Zelensky that India's position is not neutral, but firmly on the side of peace. Modi stressed the importance of dialogue and diplomacy as the only viable means to restore peace in the region. He also expressed India's support for Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity, aligning with international calls for respecting national boundaries and self-determination. Prime Minister Modi's message during his visit was clear. The path to resolving the Russia-Ukraine conflict lies in dialogue and diplomacy. In his opening remarks at the meeting with President Zelensky, Modi spoke in Hindi, stating, "The path to a solution emerges from dialogue and diplomacy, and without wasting time, we should move in that direction. The two sides should sit together and search for ways to get out of this hour of crisis." He emphasized that military conflict would not lead to a sustainable solution, and urged both Russia and Ukraine to engage in meaningful negotiations. Amid widespread speculation about India's role in peace efforts, Prime Minister Modi stated that he came with a message of peace from 1.4 billion Indians and the countries of the global south. He conveyed that India's approach is based on a human-centric perspective, which prioritizes human lives and well-being above all else. Modi assured Zelensky that India is ready to play an active role in any effort to achieve peace and stability in the region. He offered his personal commitment to contribute as a friend, stating, "If I can make any contribution, then I will certainly do it as a friend, I assure you." Prime Minister Modi's visit to Ukraine is seen as part of New Delhi's delicate balancing act in the conflict. India has maintained a careful stance, advocating for peace, while also maintaining relations with both Russia and Ukraine. During his recent visit to Russia, Modi had openly told President Putin that this is not the era of war, and that the solution to any problem cannot be found on the battlefield. India's engagement with both sides reflects its strategic approach to international relations, where it seeks to uphold principles of peace and stability while navigating complex geopolitical landscapes. India's involvement in the Russia-Ukraine conflict is being closely watched by the international community. As a major global player, India's voice carries significant weight in international forums. By advocating for dialogue and diplomacy, India is positioning itself as a responsible global actor that prioritizes peace and human well-being. Modi's visit to Ukraine and his meetings with both Russian and Ukrainian leaders indicate India's readiness to take on a more active role in facilitating peace talks. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's historic visit to Ukraine marks a significant step in India's diplomatic efforts to mediate and resolve the Russia-Ukraine conflict. The meeting with President Volodymyr Zelensky, characterized by a warm hug and handshake, symbolizes hope for peace and cooperation. Modi's message of dialogue and diplomacy as the only viable path to peace aligns with India's broader foreign policy objectives of promoting stability and development in conflict regions. As the world watches closely, India's role in the peace efforts in Ukraine could potentially shape the future of the conflict and contribute to lasting peace in the region.